Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are pulling apart the core concepts from a really classic, honestly, paradigm shifting source, which is Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez.
Yeah, it is such a foundational text. I mean, it completely alters how you view everyday transactions.
It really does. And our mission for this deep dive is pretty straightforward, but also, incredibly drastic. We want to fundamentally transform your relationship with money.
Right, because the goal here is to make sure you are not sacrificing your actual life just to earn a living.
Exactly. We're going to help you unlearn some severely outdated financial habits, navigate what they call the fulfillment curve, and calculate exactly what you have to show for every single dollar you've ever made.
Which is a terrifying but necessary process.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, let's unpack this. To really understand why this transformation is necessary, I want you to imagine you're trying to navigate a sprawling, completely unfamiliar city.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You've got this map in your hands, you are following the directions perfectly, but absolutely nothing makes sense. Like where the map says there should be a quiet park, you find a massive, noisy shopping mall.
Oh, wow.
Right. Or where it promises a clear route to the beach, you find yourself stuck at a dead-end train station.
And the harder you try to force that map to work, the more disoriented you become. I mean, you might even start blaming yourself.
Yes. You think you just aren't reading it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the reality is that the map itself is the problem. If you look closely at the fine print on that metaphorical map we all use for our finances, you'd see it was drawn in like 1890.
Wait, really? 1890?
Yeah, we are navigating the modern world using tools explicitly designed for a landscape that it no longer exists.
That historical disconnect is really at the root of why so many of us feel totally trapped. I mean, our current financial roadmap was established during the Industrial Revolution.
Right, which was a very different time.
Completely. It operates on this very specific, historically situated assumption that more material goods automatically equal a better life. It pushed this relentless narrative of, 9 to 5 till you're 65.
And the crazy thing is, back then, it actually worked. I mean, the Industrial Revolution delivered on its promise.
Because people actually lacked basic stuff, right?
Precisely. They genuinely lacked basic material possessions for survival and comfort. So it was a map for an era of physical scarcity.
But the terrain of our lives completely changed, and yet we just kept passing down the exact same map. We became completely stuck in habitual thinking.
We rarely stop to ask if the old rules still apply to our current reality.
Think about the generational habits we inherit without even questioning them. There's that classic story from the book about the young girl watching her mother prepare a ham for baking.
Oh, I love this story.
Right. So the mother meticulously slices both ends off the ham before putting it in the pan. The daughter asks why, and the mother says, well, because my mother always did.
So go ask Grandma.
Exactly. They go to Grandma, and she says, because my mother always did. Finally, they go to Great-Grandma and ask why she always cut the ends off the ham. And Great-Grandma looks at them and says, well, my pan was too small.
It's so perfect because we are constantly cutting the ends off our financial hams.
Yes.
We've inherited these spending habits, career anxieties, and definitions of success that were solutions to problems we don't even face anymore. And the consequences of living by that outdated map are genuinely severe.
They really are.
We have reached a point where we aren't really making a living anymore. We are making a dying.
Ugh, that phrase is just a punch to the gut. Making a dying.
But when you look at the modern routine, it's undeniably accurate. I mean, we wake up to an alarm, commute in punishing rush hour traffic, shoulder impossible deadlines.
An artificial urgency at work.
Right? And then we come home so completely depleted that the only thing we have energy for is to numb ourselves in front of a screen. We aren't coming home with more life or more energy or curiosity.
We are slowly draining our health, our relationships, and our sense of wonder simply to maintain our jobs.
And we've internalized this cycle so deeply that it has warped our sense of identity. We fall into this identity trap where we equate our inherent human worth entirely with our employment.
Oh, for sure. Just listen to how people introduce themselves at a party. They don't say, I do plumbing or I teach children. They say, I am a plumber or I am a teacher.
It creates what the authors refer to as Jobism.
Jobism, right.
Yeah, a societal caste system based entirely on how we earn money.
Hmm.
I mean, we judge our high school classmates at reunions not by how fulfilled or kind they are, but by what they drive and the prestige of their job title.
And the most tragic part is that this Jobism isn't even making us financially secure. I mean, the data is absolutely
It
terrifying.
really is.
Despite working ourselves to the bone and sacrificing our identities to our employers, the U.S. savings rate historically hovers near zero.
Zero. Let that sink in.
And the average consumer credit card debt sits over $3,000, and household debt is over $8,000. We are working ourselves into the ground not to build wealth, but simply to service the interest on our debts.
Which forces us to look at the underlying mechanics for our behavior. I mean, if working this hard is actively making us miserable, and if it's putting us thousands of dollars in debt, why do we keep buying so much stuff?
That is the million-dollar question.
To understand that, we have to look past the societal structure of work and examine the psychological engineering of consumerism. There was a very specific historical turning point in the 1920s. It changed everything.
The Hoover Committee, right?
Exactly. The Hoover Committee released a report based on a terrifying realization for industrialists of that era. Machinery and mass production were fulfilling human needs so efficiently that economic activity was threatening to slow down.
Because people were getting what they needed and naturally wanted to work less. They wanted to enjoy more leisure time.
Yes, because they had reached a point of satisfaction. They had enough.
But to an industrialist, a satisfied population means reduced demand.
Which means stagnant economic growth. So to prevent this supposed disaster of people simply being content, they engineered a new standard of living mindset.
Wow.
They realized they had to systematically educate people to want things they didn't actually need. They transformed leisure time from a period of relaxation and community into a period of consumption.
So the explicit goal was to make human wants insatiable.
Exactly. They effectively invented the modern consumer. And it's actually worth noting that the dictionary defines consume as to use up, to waste, to destroy, and to squander.
Okay, I have to push back on that a little bit, though. Aren't we constantly told that buying things is what keeps the economy strong? Like, isn't it framed as almost our patriotic duty to spend money?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we literally hear politicians tell us to go out and shop during times of national crisis to keep the gears turning.
What's fascinating here is how that exact narrative is the ultimate trap. We are told it is our fundamental right to consume and even our civic duty. But this pushes us deeper and deeper into a no-win personal situation.
We're encouraged to exercise our economic patriotism by going into personal debt.
Exactly. And the psychological manipulation used to keep us spending is incredibly relentless and sophisticated. The average child is exposed to more than 25,000 advertisements a year.
25,000, that is insane.
And these aren't just informational flyers. They are campaigns designed by psychologists to exploit our deepest fears, our insecurities, and our biological need for social approval.
We aren't just buying physical products.
No, we are desperately trying to buy cures for loneliness, boredom, and depression.
Which brings us to one of the most brilliant visualizations I've ever come across for this phenomenon, the fulfillment curve.
Yes, the fulfillment curve is so crucial to understand.
So imagine a simple graph. On the bottom axis, you have money spent. And on the vertical axis, you have fulfillment. Early in your life, when you spend money, your fulfillment shoots straight up.
Right, because money buys survival, it buys food so you don't starve, and a warm bed so you don't freeze.
Exactly. Then it buys comforts like a reliable bicycle or a nice winter coat. And then it buys luxuries like your first car or a plane ticket for a vacation. And with every single purchase, your fulfillment is steadily climbing.
But the critical mechanism behind this curve is what happens in our neurology. Because spending money equaled fulfillment so reliably during those early stages of survival and comfort, our brains basically lock in that pattern.
We form this deeply ingrained belief that more money and more stuff will endlessly equal more fulfillment.
But reality just doesn't work that way. The curve eventually starts to level off.
And then it hits the absolute peak. This peak is called enough. I'm completely obsessed with this concept.
It's a great concept.
Enough means having exactly what you need for survival, your basic comforts, and even a few genuine luxuries, but without any excess weighing you down. It is a place of total freedom, alertness, and satisfaction. You aren't deprived, but you aren't burdened either.
Understanding the mechanics of what happens after you hit your own, enough is the real key to breaking the cycle. Because if you blindly follow the old map and keep spending past that peak, the fulfillment curve doesn't just stay flat.
Right.
It actively goes down. Your fulfillment drops. You enter the territory known as clutter.
Clutter.
Yes, clutter is defined as anything that is excess for you. It isn't just physical junk. It takes up physical space, emotional space, and mental space. Everything you own past the point of the panis, enough requires maintenance.
It requires cleaning, organizing, protecting, ensuring. It literally drains your life energy.
It really does.
And a huge driver of this clutter is something called gazingas
Oh,
pins.
gazingas pins.
A gazingas pin is that highly specific, totally unnecessary item you buy mindlessly at the mall or online just because it caught your eye. It's an impulse buy triggered by a specific weakness.
We all have one.
Right. For some people, it's tiny novelty screwdrivers. For others, it's expensive journals they never write in, or coffee mugs, or, I don't know, a very specific type of shoe.
You see it, your brain goes into autopilot, and suddenly you are acting like a wind-up zombie, marching it to the cash register.
You bring it home, the brief dopamine hit fades, you throw it in a drawer, and you literally never think about it again.
And it's crucial to recognize that this clutter isn't just a personal psychological burden or just an annoyance when you have to clean your garage. It has a massive, devastating macro impact.
Right, because all those millions of gazingas pins and unworn shoes don't just crowd our attics, they're actively crowding the planet. And the personal cost of consumerism translates directly to a global environmental cost.
The modern economy worships the myth that growth is good and that infinite economic expansion is somehow possible. But this completely ignores the physical, finite limits of nature.
We're treating the Earth like a business in liquidation.
Exactly. We are currently consuming resources 25% faster than the Earth can naturally replenish them. We are spending the Earth's underlying capital, not living off its interest.
That's a scary thought.
The statistics are staggering to confront. If everyone in the world consumed resources at the exact rate of the average American, we would need 4 extra planets to supply those resources.
See, I hear a statistic like that, 4 extra planets, and honestly, it just bounces right off me. It is too abstract, too massive. Like, how does my mindless purchase of a novelty coffee mug connect to global ecological collapse? I need a way to visualize why we collectively act this way.
A powerful way to visualize those mechanics is through ecologist Garrett Hardin's analogy of the village commons.
Oh, right, the sheep pasture.
Yes. Imagine a shared, lush pasture in the center of a village where everyone is allowed to graze their sheep. If everyone respects the carrying capacity of that commons, all the sheep get fed, the grass regenerates, and the community thrives indefinitely.
Sounds ideal.
But then, operating out of greed or fear of missing out or just that more is better mindset we discussed, a few individuals decide to graze an extra sheep.
They think, it's just one extra sheep. What's the harm?
Exactly. But soon, everyone else sees this and feels they need to graze extra sheep just to keep up or to get their fair share. Suddenly, the grass is depleted faster than it can grow, the roots are destroyed by overgrazing, and the entire commons collapses into a wasteland. No one's sheep can survive.
So what does this all mean? Like, how do you, as an individual listener, actually step off this destructive cycle? Because when you look at the collapse of the global commons, or even just the mountain of debt on your kitchen table, the problem feels so massive, it's paralyzing.
This raises an important question, and it is where we have to pivot from analyzing the philosophy to taking hard action. Token, small changes, like just buying a slightly more energy-efficient gazingas pin or cutting out 1 coffee a week, they aren't going to save you. We need a complete, fundamental transformation of our relationship with money.
And transformation doesn't mean finding clever new solutions to old problems. It means having the courage to ask entirely different questions about your life.
Exactly.
To achieve that level of transformation, you have to establish absolute reality about where you stand right now. You have to strip away the fog, the illusions, and the ego. Which brings us to the highly practical, completely unavoidable foundation of this entire process. Step 1.
Step 1 is about making peace with your past and getting a clear, unvarnished look at your present. It's about extreme accountability.
Because you cannot chart a new course if you refuse to acknowledge your starting coordinates.
Exactly.
So step 1A is calculating your lifetime earnings. And I don't mean estimating. I mean calculating every single penny you've ever earned in your entire life.
Which is an intense exercise.
Oh, it really is. You go back to your high school summer jobs, flipping burgers. You dig up old tax returns. You calculate unreported cash tips from waiting tables, financial gifts, odd jobs, and your current salary. You figure out the exact raw dollar amount of life energy that has entered your life since you were born.
And people strongly resist this step. They claim it's impossible to track down, or they argue it's pointless to dwell on the past.
Right.
But the resistance is usually psychological. We naturally block out how much we've earned because realizing a massive amount of money has passed through our hands while we have very little to show for it is deeply threatening to our ego.
It totally is.
But pushing through that fog is profound. Most people have wildly inaccurate narratives about their own earning power.
There is an incredible true anecdote from the source material that proves exactly why this matters.
The divorcee story.
Yes. So a suburban housewife in her mid-30s had recently gone through a devastating divorce. She was suffering from a severe mental block where she felt completely dependent, unworldly, and totally unworthy of her divorce settlement.
Because her internal narrative was that she had contributed nothing financially to the marriage.
Exactly. But she forced herself to do step 1A. She tracked down her statement of earnings from Social Security, painstakingly did the math on all the side gigs she'd done, and realized she had actually earned $25,000 in assorted odd jobs during those years.
Wow.
Seeing that hard number in black and white completely dismantled her illusion of worthlessness. She saw herself, objectively, as a competent wage earner. It shifted her confidence so dramatically that she immediately went out and landed a job paying twice what she previously assumed she was worth.
That's the power of absolute reality. It cuts through the stories we tell ourselves. But once you know exactly what has come in, you have to figure out exactly what is left.
Right.
That brings us to step 1B, calculating your net worth. This is answering the hardest question of all. What do you actually have to show for all those hours you worked?
It is time to face the music. And this isn't just like logging into your bank app.
No, it is a highly physical process. You are going to create a comprehensive personal balance sheet. You calculate your liquid assets, cash, savings, stocks. Then you calculate your fixed assets.
And to do this, you literally walk through your home and inventory every single item worth more than $1.
You become a ruthless appraiser for your own estate. You open the closets and price the unworn shoes. You go into the garage and price the power tools gathering dust. You look at that expensive treadmill you currently use as a clothes rack.
You are forcing a physical confrontation with your past choices. When you have to assign a garage sale dollar value to a mahogany carving set you got as a wedding gift 10 years ago and never opened, you are breaking the emotional spell that item has over you.
And then you subtract all your liabilities, your mortgage, your credit card debt, your student loans.
Now, I know there are people listening to this right now who are starting to sweat.
Oh, Deb.
The idea of looking at massive, suffocating debts or realizing you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of your lifetime earnings on absolute junk can induce panic, guilt, and deep self-loathing.
Which is why you cannot skip the psychological safety net that makes this step possible. There is a mantra you must repeat over and over while doing step 1. No shame, no blame.
No shame, no blame.
That mantra is non-negotiable. Recrimination and shame will immobilize you. If you judge yourself, you will quit the exercise. This process is not about proving your moral worth or unworthiness.
Right. Your net worth does not equal your self-worth.
Exactly. It is simply about discrimination, sorting out the true from the false. You are shining a bright, clinical light on your financial reality so you can finally see the landscape you are standing in.
No shame, no blame, just the cold, hard facts. You can't fix a problem if you are busy punishing yourself for it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, discovering you have a negative net worth or realizing your attic is stuffed with useless clutter isn't a failure at all.
It's really not.
It is the necessary beginning of financial intelligence. Once you objectively appraise your unused possessions without emotional attachment, you stop seeing them as necessary comforts or extensions of your identity. You start seeing them as trapped life energy.
You realize that pile of junk is potential cash that you could liquidate tomorrow to pay down your debt.
You are literally looking around your house at the tools required to buy back your freedom.
There's this brilliant story of a single mom who was following this exact process. She was right on the brink of buying a hot tub.
Okay.
She had the money saved up, and she was ready to pull the trigger. But she stops and applies financial intelligence. She does the math and realizes the hot tub isn't a luxury. It's just going to become more clutter.
Because it requires buying harsh chemicals, paying for maintenance.
And sacrificing hours of her free time to keep it clean. So instead of buying it, she takes the washing machine out of her dark, dreary cellar and moves it up into the bright space where the hot tub would have gone.
That's amazing.
Right. She saves her back from carrying laundry down the stairs, saves the money she would have spent on the tub, saves her precious time, and just takes hot baths in her regular indoor tub. It is a massive win on all counts because she stopped mindlessly following the consumer map.
It perfectly illustrates the freedom available to you. When you align your spending with your actual honest fulfillment rather than the outdated map of consumerism, you stop leaking money and you start building a life.
Okay, let's take a breath and recap this incredible journey we've just been on. We started by realizing that the financial map we've been using, the one that says more is always better and demands we sacrifice our youth and health to an employer, is a relic of the Industrial Revolution.
We looked at how we've been psychologically engineered since the 1920s to be insatiable consumers, trying to cure our modern anxieties with gazingis pins.
We navigated the fulfillment curve, discovered the liberating peak of enough, and recognized that pushing past it just creates clutter that destroys our peace of mind and depletes the planet's resources.
And finally, we learned that the first non-negotiable step out of this trap is to ruthlessly but compassionately calculate our lifetime earnings and our current net worth. No shame, no blame.
By completing that step, you are establishing the factual baseline of your existence. You are clearing away the myths, which is the prerequisite for achieving true financial independence.
This is the only way forward.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want to leave you with a new paradigm to ponder on your own after this deep dive ends. Throughout our conversation, we've mostly talked about money as numbers on a balance sheet or items in a house, but what if you shifted your perspective entirely?
I love this part.
Every single dollar you earn actually represents a fraction of the limited, irreplaceable hours you have alive on this planet. It is your literal life energy.
Sobering thought.
So with that in mind, how much of your actual lifespan is currently sitting in your garage gathering dust? When you look at your personal balance sheet, not as a collection of dollars, but as the finite hours of your life you traded away to get them, which of your possessions are truly worth your life?
It's a profound shift. It forces you to stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, is this worth the time I'm giving up to get it?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into your money or your life. We highly encourage you to grab a notebook, adopt the mantra of no shame, no blame, and take that first step toward charting your own course. Remember, if your map is leading you to a dead end, you don't have to keep following it. You have the power to draw a new one.